What if your sales problem really is a clarity problem? When your message, website, lead generation, sales process, and tech are all not aligned, growth feels harder than it probably should. Your website gets traffic, but maybe it's not enough of the qualified leads. Your team may explain the business in different ways, or your follow up feels scattered. As the founder, it's still carrying too much. You might still be carrying too much of the sales process. So, in today's episode of Profit with a Plan podcast, we're going to be talking about how to build a modern B2B revenue machine and get this 120 days. You'll hear how to set up your website to capture the ideal customers, how AI is changing the way your business shows up in the market, and why the right message create momentum across your entire business. So if your company is visible but not converting, this conversation will help you see what it is that you need to fix first. Hey, entrepreneurs, are you showing up? Hey, entrepreneurs, are you working too hard for too little profit? Well, welcome to Profit with a Plan podcast, where we help business owners grow smarter, increase profitability, and build a business that's worth more, whether you plan to keep it or sell it. I'm Marcia, Riner, business growth strategist and the profit booster behind Infinite Profit. Each week, I bring you practical strategies, expert insights, and real world steps that help you grow revenue, improve margins, and build a stronger business. By the way, this episode is brought to you by Infinite Profit, where strategy turns into profitable growth. And before we jump in, I have something special for you. If you found that your revenue is plateaued or your marketing is not producing the returns it should, go get your free Profit Booster Growth Map. In just a few minutes, it'll help you find and identify where it is to bring in more qualified clients and where profit leaks may be costing you a lot more money than you expected. Go get yours today at profitbooster.biz, and there's no sales call required. So now let's get into today's conversation. Today's guest is Mark Gordon, known by founders as the Rebel CRO. Mark helps B2B companies build modern revenue machines by aligning the pieces that too often work in silos. That's messaging, lead generation, sales processes, websites, and technology. He scaled companies from 1 million to over 30 million in annual revenue and has rebuilt go-to-market engines across SaaS, services, and tech. Through the integrated go-to-market solutions, Mark helps founders move from sales hopefuls to sales-led and systems designed to attract the right buyers, create clearer conversations, and close more consistently. All right, Mark, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Marcia, and sharing your audience with me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely. I just love this platform of podcasting and how it brings people from across the country, across the world together. And we get to share valuable insights with them. So I like that too. Appreciate you being here.
I
All
love
right.
it.
So yeah, let's go. Let me start off with some questions. My mouth is tongue-tied today. And I mean, it seems like it's going to be one of those days, but we're going to pound through this and get it to happen nicely. But most people don't come up and say, okay, I'm going to go into marketing and I'm going to talk about go-to-market strategies. What got you into that lane?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. So I spent almost 20 years in the mortgage and real estate industries, and in the United States, especially in the mortgage industry, a lot of it is under government control, meaning that there are 2,000 companies all selling the exact same products at the exact same rate. So it's a sales and marketing knife fight. And while I was in it, I never even thought of it that way. I just thought that was kind of how business was. But after kind of doing everything I could do in that space and leading a company to over $1 billion a year in lending, I took some time off and I started helping my friends and family build their companies. And what I was finding is I was running into companies that had a bunch of like Wharton grads and MBAs and all these other different things, and no one in the company could tell me what the company did, what problem they solved, who they solved it for in a way that anyone would be able to understand. And you go to
Mm,
the website of those companies and you couldn't tell what they did. And I just realized that some of the skills I had picked up fighting that knife battle over 20 years were translating really well to other industries. And I started kind of seeing where the disconnect was in the market. I saw all these companies that would be, your messaging and brand expert, your lead generation team, marketing, your sales trainers, and everyone was like, I've hired all of them and it didn't work. And I started thinking like, why was that? And it's because I kind of think of it as a rowboat. It's like with four paddles. And if the whole idea of getting that crew boat to go forward and straight is to have everybody paddling at the exact same speed with the exact same in and out motion of the paddles. And what's happening in those other models is someone's coming in and making one paddle go faster. And that's not making the boat go faster, it's making the boat spin around in circles. And so what we came in to do is say, okay, I think we need an alignment between those four things, right? Messaging, product market fit, lead generation, sales execution, revenue technology. And when they're all moving together with purpose, they don't even have to go that fast to get the boat moving forward. Right. And
Uh,
so, and that's what we really brought to it.
I love the analogy of the rowboat. That is so, and it's so true. So many businesses are siloed and they get these experts that they go, oh, we need, our sales is failing. So let's bring in a sales expert. And then they like craft and design all this stuff over here. But then like the rest of the company's not on the same page. And I find that just as frustrating as you do. And I think the business owners don't realize that this has to be a well-conceived plan across the board rather than just this one hack over here or this one hack over there. So I'm so glad that you brought this to the conversation today because I think it's going to be really great. So let me ask you a question. So when I've talked to business owners in the past, you bring in a consultant like you that's going to look at the whole picture. They start off with kind of that fluffy, soft stuff like, oh, what's your vision? What's your mission? What's your values? And then the business owner goes, ugh, I don't want that. I need something really fast. So how do you kind of get them to the table and see that it's the big picture?
Well, I think there's two things that are really pivotal to the success of our offer that I think have worked well for us. And one is that we have a defined timeline. For almost all of our clients, it's 120 days. And then it's funny when you say that you're going to go that fast, the reaction of them is like, "How are you going to get all this done in 4 months?" It's like, well, if I said it was in a year, you'd be like, "That's too long," right? So, but the reality is that actually, when we get purpose-driven founders who are spending 45 minutes a week with us, we are actually able to get this done in 4 months. And we break it through these segments because I think it's pretty clear. The first thing that we do is we come in and we interview their core team and a bunch of their clients. We also interview some competitors and we kind of figure out, okay, what is our messaging and product market fit? Are we on the right track with those things? And usually there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. How do we make it so that when someone gets to that website, if your ideal customer shows up on the website within 3 seconds, they're like, it's for me. I found it. That
Yay.
it solves my problem, right? And we get that going in month one. And then once we get that right, that becomes the foundation for the lead generation, the sales execution, and the revenue technology, which we address in months 2, 3, and 4. And so what we found is having that defined time frame of saying, like, listen, here's our plan from day one. Here's how we're going to get it done, and here's the timeline we're on. And by the way, everyone has a plan till they get punched in the mouth. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's Mike Tyson, right? And so we say, well, we're gonna get punched. And by the way, this plan may change. That's why we have to have that 45-minute meeting every week, is we're gonna let you know exactly where we are, what's changed, and then we're gonna design the strategy going forward, and we're gonna be able to iterate as we go. And that's why you're hiring us to come in here, which is we know that the situation is going to change, reality is going to change, that your plan for AI in December looks radically different than it does in April, right? Because the world's moving so quickly. Um, but we're at the end of this 4 months, you're going to have a predictable, scalable revenue engine. You're going to be able to measure what's my customer acquisition cost, what's my lifetime value. You're going to understand your churn, and you're going to be able to make really good decisions going forward based on that. And then when we deliver it, we go back through what we started with at the beginning as the goal and where we're at the end, and we find that our customers are thrilled, for the vast majority.
I love it. And it sounds like, 120 days to some people can think, oh, wow, that's really fast. But then some people are thinking 120 days, I need it yesterday, right? And but it sounds like the first step in your plan is getting the clarity on your product market fit and the messaging, which creates this like momentum behind you. So in reality, I mean, I'm hearing from the way you explained that actually things start happening faster than you can expect or that you
I
would
mean, by
expect.
100%. I mean, by month two, all of our customers are seeing an uptick in interest and people taking action on their website and different things. So yes, you will see movement right in that second month, right? That first month is more like a let's go ahead and map the plan, really get to know your team, your product, make sure we have all this stuff right. By month two, you're definitely seeing that action. Um, and what I'll say is it takes time to move an organization, right? And you have to have one of the things like, oh, you really have to interview all the people on our C-suite. I'm like, yeah, because we have to make them a participant in this, right?
Yeah.
Is it happening with them, for them, or to them? And the way that we present a lot of that is going to be a lot of how they take it on. And one of the things that's really given us license is, when I used to come in just as a fractional chief revenue officer without a defined timeline, people were very threatened, right? The head of sales, head of marketing, like they're coming for my job, they're going to replace me. Now it's like, hey, we're coming in for 4 months. My job is to make your life easier, to make you perform better, and to make you look good. Now work with me to help you do those things, right? And so that when you graduate in 4 months, you're going to be the one who is taking credit for all of this work that we've done. You're the one who's going to be able to operate in this easier world. No one's going to even remember we were here. And so my job is to help make that easier for you. And once we can have that conversation, we rally everyone to our cause. So it's not just what we bring to the table, but it's what we get out of your team through our strategic coaching, messaging, and the services that we deliver that bring everybody in your team together for that alignment, even once we leave.
I love it. The biggest, one of the biggest words that people fear and hate is change, right? So if you're coming in there and you're getting them to buy in to the process that's going, then the changes are not so threatening to them, right? Because the worst thing you can have is that internal sabotage from the team members that are going, I don't want to do it differently. I've been doing it this way forever and it works, but it doesn't work. And they don't realize that, but they block that change. And I think that process of getting them on board and on the direction of the change and how it's going to benefit them will make it a lot easier to have everything processed.
100%. I'll just say, yes, people still fear change, and that's not going to go away. But what I will say is, I have seen a real change in collective thinking around change, given what's going on in the world right now. And I will just share that uh, even the ones who don't want it are resigned to the fact that it's here, separate from even what we do, because they know everybody can see the landscape is shifting. And I think top down organizations are now realize that the entire job of leadership is to navigate change, right? The teams that see reality the best win. And it's all change management, and it's constant and forever, and it's indefinite. And so if you are uncomfortable with change, find yourself out of corporate America right now, because change is just the permanent state that we are going to be in on a go forward basis, and your ability to thrive in that environment is going to dictate the course of your career.
1,000%, because it's like you have to be nimble and be able to go, or you're going to be left behind, especially in the speed that we're dealing with in today's market. So good point on that. All right, so let's shift a little bit. Tell me, you gave us the overview on how it looks and how it feels and the results that you get after 4 months. But let's kind of dig into that first month a little bit. How do you really determine with the client that you're onboarding? Their current go-to-market strategy, because that might, they might think that this is the right path, and therefore, everything might have to change because that's not really working. What do you do?
Yeah. I would say that I wish I ran into more companies where there was conviction in the wrong direction. I actually very rarely find conviction at all.
Oh,
And what I usually find is kind of here's where we ended up, because
mhm.
the customers that showed up wanted us to be this, and we let them lead who we became, and now we don't even know how to talk about it. And
Ah,
by the way, like anytime that you see operations in a company that's frustrated, or fulfillment that's frustrated, it's because we took whatever customer showed up and tried to change our company to fit that customer. And that is like an impossible way to operate in the medium and long term in a business. And I get it. When you're struggling to make payroll or you don't know where your next deal is coming from and you don't have marketing and sales working the right way, any opportunity feels too good to pass up. But the problem is now you're letting opportunity define what your vision of the company, and you can never get great at anything because you're always trying to do everything for everybody. I met with a company earlier this week. They're doing 2.5 million in revenue, and when you look at their website, there are like 40 things they say they do. You can't be good at 40 things. Even the biggest companies in the world aren't good at 40 things. And so if you're a small company, pick the three things you're organically best at, and let's build our messaging, marketing, and sales strategy around those things, your area of genius. Another thing I think that makes us different is I think a lot of companies will come in and consultants will be like, this is the opportunity in the space. You guys should be doing this. That's not what we do. We come in and we assess what you're already doing well, what makes you guys special to begin with, your customers that love you, why do they love you? Your team that executes, what are you best at? And then we build a commercial narrative around who your authentic team is and what they authentically do well. And so what you find is after that first month, the whole team is energized now because you're telling the world, hey, we're great at this stuff. And it's your team loves that they're great at it. We're telling a story where they can be proud of the company and what they're doing. And suddenly you're attracting the customers you already know you can serve best instead of trying to figure out some creative way to serve customers that like you probably should be passing on to somebody else anyway.
Hey, quick pause here. If you've ever wondered what your next smartest move should be to grow your business, well, I've built something for you. It's called the Profit Booster Growth Map. It takes only about 2 minutes, it's totally free, and it shows you exactly where you're leaving money on the table and what to fix first. Go grab it for free at profitbooster.biz/growth map. Then come right back to the episode. That is so smart because it is, there are a lot of consultants and people and coaches and, that'll come in and go, oh, you need to be over here. And then it's like a total, it's a total shakeup for the company. But I love the way that you come in and you say, okay, what are you already doing that works, right? How do we optimize that? How do we make it sound better? And how do we attract more of those customers for you? And I think that's the real sweet spot because they've already had some success. You and I both don't work with startups, right? And trying to create everything. We're trying to optimize what they're doing. And I think that this is a fantastic way of going in and seeing because then it feels better. Again, back to that change word. Nobody wants to, be flipped on their head. They want something that's gentle in movement and going in the right direction. And it also proves that they've already done something that worked. So let's optimize that. And I think that that's fantastic. So when we do that and when we start to optimize, where are we? We kind of discussed this a little bit, but I'd love to dig into it. But where are we really sharing that message, right? And getting that cohesive brand voice that goes out.
Hopefully everywhere that your customers are, right? And I think that's a really, that's another piece of it is like when we kind of nail into the firmographic and psychographic and behavioral aspects of your ideal customer, making sure that your message is where they are. But in the interest of kind of streamlining the conversation, I'll just say your website, your company LinkedIn, your team's individual LinkedIn's, um, any other social media your company has, and then really understanding that how to create a commercial narrative that you can communicate in a 1 sentence version, a 3 sentence version, a 30 sentence version, and having those things be aligned so that people understand what they're getting wherever they're seeing you. Because what's happening is when there's a disconnect in that messaging, you're teaching people not to trust you, right? Because and they don't even think of it that way. It's almost it's not like it's intuition on their part, right? It's like I shouldn't trust this person because I'm getting all these different things in different places, right? But when you have that cohesiveness and the simplicity of it, and you're really good at saying this is the problem we solve, and this is who we solve it for, and that's consistent, then those people gravitate towards you because they just want someone who has the answers. But you can't look like you have the answers for everybody. You have to have the answers for that specific niche, right? So yeah, again, in that website, LinkedIn, any sort of other ads or anything else you're doing, all of it needs to be aligned that way. But those are kind of the basics.
I love it. So then when we get that message clear on the front end and it helps us with the lead generation, right? How does that how does that transition into the sales process and the technology that we use? Are we are we complementing that? Or I guess that's where I'm trying to put the link now. Now that we've got the messaging dialed in, does it improve the process and the delivery and the technology that we use?
Well, yeah, think about it. Of course it does, right? We already talked about how you've probably all worked for a company at some point, if you're listening to this, where the sales team was like, "Hey, I have this new client. This is what they want. Can we add this product or this feature or this thing?" It's like we can just get this one thing, we'll get this customer. It's like, oh, cool. Now all of a sudden, the our product plan becomes what each individual customer says they want. And then by the way, you build that feature, and then that client doesn't even show up or they don't use it or whatever else it is, right? Like we've seen the dysfunction of this. That
Mm,
is all the passing of defects down the line, right? If your messaging pushed those customers away to start with, they don't even end up in the front of your funnel. If your lead generation process disqualified the people that were not your core audience, and you were willing to do that because you had all of the right people coming in top of funnel, you felt secure in where your next deal was coming from, you'd be able to push those people out and you wouldn't have to make those concessions. Your sales guys are always going to make those concessions because they're incentivized to do so. They are trying to find a way to put the puzzle piece in the puzzle. And the best sales guys, the ones who are absolutely the best at what they do, will find a way to do it, and they will destroy your organization if at the front end you're giving them people that shouldn't be in the puzzle to begin with. Like, and you can't, I was like, oh, Mark on the sales team, he's always trying to find a way to make every, square peg fit a round hole. It's like that's literally Mark's job, is to get people in here. And by the way, and so if you let him, he's going to do that. You have to create firm rules for what you do and not those people in the front of your process, and say what you will and won't do and have those things in place, right? You're rewarding, you have that person in that role because they're that person. You can't penalize them for it, right? So you have to build a system and structure that supports that. And so yes, if we need to get the right people to raise their hand with our messaging. We need to get messaging in front of those right people, identify who they are before we even put the messaging in front of them so that only the right people are seeing our messaging. And then once they raise their hand, we need to have a sales execution process that's tailor made for that specific audience with that specific problem. And then the sales becomes easy, right? You don't
mm,
have to fit a square peg into a round hole because you already identified who needs your thing. You already identified the language that made them interested. Now you get them in and it's easy, right? You have your
yeah.
buyer personas lined up, you know who you're talking to and how to move that needle. And then the technology is just the support behind it that automates as much of your process as possible so that once someone's in, there's a flow that's predictable and that we can get people across the finish line.
Ah, so good. So good. Okay, so that makes perfect sense because you're right. The sales guy is his goal is to make sales, right? What can I do? How can I get this deal closed, right? And if you have the right funnel coming in with the right people, it all looks natural. But I think too is that it also, when you look at the other systems in the company, right? So we're talking about not being siloed. So the delivery of the product is natural because you're not trying to put all these other pieces in there. You're delivering what it's supposed to be that you originally aligned everything with, and everything seems to flow through. So for me, it sounds like it's just a smooth transition all the way through the process.
Yeah, and this is what I mean. I think even in the intro you mentioned it, like what it means to be sales led as an organization. I think people often get like a weird thought in their head about like, oh, so we're supposed to do whatever the sales team says. It's like that's not what we're saying at all. What we're saying is we need to know who our customer is and what they're willing to buy, and that needs to drive the decisions about what we do with our product or our service or execution, because we need to be making our decisions based on delivering what our customers are willing to pay for and willing to pay for at a price where we can drive a profit. And so if
Mm.
you start anywhere else, right, you can go that really far down a long path of building really cool stuff that no one's willing to pay for. And we've all seen a lot of customers, a lot of clients out there who do this, right? It's like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. It doesn't solve anybody's problem who has the budget to pay for it, right? Like the economics of it don't work. And so, when you're sales led, it means, okay, we are solving a problem. People are willing to pay to solve that problem. And then at the rate they're willing to pay for it, we can turn a profit. And you have to get
Yeah.
that right first and then simplify from there.
I love it. Oh, it's so good. Okay, so then now that we've decided, okay, where our fine tune is in our communication and our language, um, it seems like when we look at websites, right? Many of those websites, the one of the entry points, right? Whether it's your marketing or your ads or conversations or telephone calls, whatever, they're always going to go to your website and kind of troll you and figure out who you are. How do we make sure that the website is actually converting, right? Instead of just being a pretty business card or brochure?
Well, there are a bunch of tools that you can use, but let's stop there and say the purpose of your website,
Mm,
even your homepage, is that it is a landing page. And the entire goal of that front page that shows up when someone first hits your page is to let your ideal customer, whoever that is, know that they are in the magical place they were supposed to end up within 3 seconds of them getting there. And I think that 98% of websites are not doing this today.
mm,
98% of websites will lead about something they do, about them. It'll be like, we've been here since 1983, which nobody cares about, right? And again, and it's not a shot. Like, you should be proud of that, right? But it doesn't, and it should be on your website, but not on the top and not in the front and not in the message that matters, because that's not what's going to move the needle for me. I want to know that your firm exists to solve my specific problem, that you are the person on earth that is most qualified, or you have the product that is most designed to fix my pain. And if you can convince me of that in 3 seconds, everything else is like extra. And if you don't
mm.
convince me in 3 seconds, I'm already on somebody else's website. And so
Ex-
those are the stakes. And when you accept that as the meaning of your website, it changes the conversation. But I mean, I go to websites every day, every single day, where it takes me minutes, if I can ever figure it out, what that company actually does and who they do it for. And it's like, what's the point of having a website? What's the point,
mm.
right? Like you've lost the forest through the trees, right? Like it's you know, I just think that people are really missing that. And the other problem is that everyone is so afraid that they're going to push away somebody that could be a customer, right? Like, well, if we say that, then we're going to lose this person. It's like, you can't be
Yeah.
everything for everybody, right? Have a separate website with a separate landing page with that messaging. Have three sections of your company on the homepage and just have there pick that speak to exactly the audience that you're looking for, and then drive them to a landing page that makes sense. There are solves for it, but you have
Yes.
to get people in that 3 second mode. You have 3 seconds to let them go, ooh, it's for me. And if you miss that, it's over. And I just looked at the data from a website earlier this morning. 89% of visitors to the website, they were driving cold traffic there, were leaving without clicking or scrolling anything, which means they got to the
Wow.
homepage. They never scrolled, they never looked, and they were gone. 89%. 11% of people were converting to something. 89% were just leaving without doing anything because they didn't have that first 3 seconds down.
Wow, that is really impactful, and that's above the fold, right? So the whether
Above the
you're on
fold.
a laptop or a tablet or a phone, it's got to be in that first part of the section so they can see it. But I love it. 3 seconds is all we've got.
Yep.
That's a huge challenge to do, and I think that reverts back to your original conversation of saying you got to know who you're delivering a problem for, right? And that clarity that you need to spend that first month on to kind of get really that 3 second pitch right there where the money is, right? And in today's environment with AI doing SEO now, and you've got the old SEO where you had, a bunch of words at the bottom. You've got to have that kind of attractive nature that brings people to your site. And when they get there, they have to stay, right? That's the magic of getting you into Google or wherever you're gonna have your engine, that searches for you. But you have to have that. And I think it's the biggest missed piece, right? How many catch me if I'm wrong, right? How many websites do you see that there's a giant logo in the first part of the website, right? And it's their
Yeah,
logo,
or
and you're like, I don't care.
well, it's so powerful because your logo is designed to get people to notice it. Right? That's why you do it, and that's great on in the world, right? You want them to see it on a T-shirt, you want them to see them on a water bottle, right? But on your website, where we have 3 seconds, the last thing we want is a giant logo distracting people from the problem you solve. You better have the color scheme and the word sizing and everything on there to draw their eyes specifically to the most important message you want them to see, right? And if you don't have
Yep.
that, you're losing people, right? And again, they're And it needs to be simple enough that any eighth grader can understand what you do. There's another myth that business owners tell themselves, which is like, well, we're selling into a sophisticated space and our buyers understand. No, they don't. I've never seen a company that didn't have a message that my mom at 70 years old would be able to understand what you do and who you do it for. That was succeeded no matter what industry they were in. You could be selling astrophysicist solutions. I promise you, if an eighth grader doesn't understand the problem you solve, you're not going to grow. It's going to be
Yeah.
very difficult to do.
That's really, really important too. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, I know we can talk about this forever, but I wanted to touch on a couple more items about the website and about bringing in people and how important your messaging is to attract your right audience. When we're doing that, kind of the trigger that you just brought up was industry lingo or tech language or whatever. How do you really bring it down to an eighth grader or something your 70-year-old mother can understand and still make it impactful? Is there a formula you use? Is there something, that you can kind of bring it out with? Because you're going to use that in your conversations as well.
So a couple of different things. One is I'll say it usually takes me days or weeks, even having done this a long time, to get to the fully what I'll call perfect version of working with a client where
Sure.
we nail the hero statement on that front page of the website because I want your whole company to go there and as soon as they see it, they go, oh yeah, we finally got it, right? Like it should be like this magical moment for everybody. Like, of course that's what we do. And I can't believe I never thought of it that way before. And it's like we should have that moment, right? Like if you come to my website, it says you're 120 days away from having a world-class B2B revenue machine. Simple as that. It's not about me. It's not about what we do or my expertise. It's about you and the result that you're going to get and the problem we solve. And you'll be able to get it in 5 seconds. By the way, an eighth grader would get it and my mom would get it. It's simple, right? That's it. And so, but that did not appear to me in a dream. It was workshopped and played with a long time. And
Sure.
I went out and asked people, like, do you understand what this means? Is this where and like I was missing it for a while. And so
Mhm.
that's part of why, again, I'm not saying that any of what we're talking about is necessarily easy. I'm saying it's the work that's worth doing because once you get that right, right, everything else that we're talking about becomes so much easier. And it's the difference between trying to push a boulder up a hill or try to walk next to it while it's rolling down the hill.
Yeah.
And that is getting that work right, right? And so yeah, I think the formula is it understandable by everybody or almost everybody? And is it about them and the result or their problem that you're going to solve for them? Or are you listing your credentials or why they should work with you or some kind of an about us that is like so secondary? You want them to go, oh, they aren't that guy understands me. This website is for me. And so that's the formula is just that is ask yourself when your ideal customer shows up here, is there any chance they're going to leave? Is there any
Mm.
chance they'd be like, that's not for me? Or they're going to be like, oh, it's a miracle. Finally, I found somebody who knows what I'm going through.
Exactly. All right. So one final question for you here. So, in the world of technology, in the world of AI, and the fact that everything's going by and we only have 3 seconds to capture someone's attention, are people still looking at websites or are they looking at ads or are they looking at, something on, their phone that pops up? I mean, are websites even worth it anymore?
I would say yes and, right? So to your original question. So the short answer is yes, they are 100% worth it. And SEO is still very real. And I can list a bunch of different clients that we changed. We added $100,000 a month in revenue to them in 3 months just by optimizing SEO, right? And these are companies over from like 200,000 a month to 300,000 a month in 3 months just on SEO without spending a dollar in ads or anything else.
Wow.
All of those different things have their place. And again, that's why understanding when we talk about your ideal customer profile, I talked about the three different areas of that. It is and understanding your customer acquisition costs and how much can you afford to spend to attract somebody where you can still make a profit and it all still makes sense, right? So, but yes, anyone who's like if I the first thing I do if I see an ad on Instagram that's interesting to me is I go visit the website. Second thing I do is I go search for people on LinkedIn and the company, the founder. I want to go see those people, right? So, and we know we track people who come to our website. We see who comes to the LinkedIn profiles. We have AI go in and do an analysis on that every day, so we can see it. And so, yes, you want to. you want to get attention through all the different ways, right? Whether it's, I mean, there's just infinite ways to try to get into the minds of the people that are your ideal customers. But once you do, you have what we call our public go-to-market presence, which is what is a buyer who looks you up, find and see, and what decisions are they going to make about your credibility, your professionalism, the results you drive when they go and look that up. And so we have an assessment on our website, and I know we'll talk, you're going to ask me this in a minute anyway, so I'll just kind of jump the gun. It's completely free, 25-point inspection. There are 25 categories we grade you on your public go-to-market presence. You get a score from 0 to 4 on all of them. And what we find across the board is that companies that score above 70 on this assessment grow at almost 3 times the rate as companies that score under 60. And if you're under 50, you're dead in the water. Like unless you're doing
Wow.
completely founder-led sales or relationship-led sales, you're dead. And so this is like and it's, by the way, it's all stuff that you can fix on your own. You can spend a weekend in Claude for the most part and get this stuff to a 70 for the most part, right? At this point, if you're willing to do it yourself. And it makes such a difference. And again, it's both conscious and subconscious on the part of your buyers. They are, it's almost like a test, right? They're coming to your website like, does this company meet my minimum threshold for somebody I would trust with my money to solve my problems? And if you aren't nailing your messaging, if you aren't nailing your case studies, if you aren't in all the places you're supposed to be, if you don't have all the boxes checked, they're going to decide to go with somebody else. And you don't even realize all the leakage you have, all the reason why all those ads you're doing right now aren't converting because someone is going to your website or is looking it up and they go, not for me. You missed it. You spent all that money to get somebody to raise their hand. And when they did, you just kind of left them there. Right. Like, and so we just see so much of that, right? It's why you need that fully aligned approach and why you need to be doing all of the things along the way.
I love it. Yeah, it's so important to have your entire brand presence out there because customers will troll you, look at everything, and make a decision before you even have a chance to say hi, right? They're making this impression on you. And I think that's why I think a website is still very important. Your LinkedIn presence and everything that you've got going on that's out there and visible will help attract people to you and give you that legit status so that you can move up the list and get to that opportunity when they're eventually ready to have a conversation. So I think that this is super valuable. Mark, this is great. I love it. I don't even have to ask you where people can find you, but I'm going to ask you one more time. What's the link to that opportunity so they take that assessment and where can they find you?
You can see it right on the front page of our website, and our website is igtms.com, Integrated Go-to-Market Solutions, igtms.com. You can also find me anywhere, Instagram, LinkedIn, under Mark D. Gordon. And yeah, we'd love to help you with either that public go-to-market presence or any of the other issues you're having across those core four.
Love it. Thank you so much. All right, listeners, thanks for tuning in today. I hope you were able to walk away with some practical ideas that you can put into your business that'll help you be more profitable and your business more valuable. And I know that Mark's ideas of really getting that messaging dialed in and your go-to-market dialed in will significantly help you. So go take his assessment. All right, and before you go, if you want a clearer path to more revenue and stronger profit, go grab your free Profit Booster Growth Map. It'll quickly show you the top strategies to grow revenue and stop those profit leaks that you may be holding your business back. You can go get it anytime after the show, obviously, at profitbooster.biz. And if this episode gave you value, be sure to subscribe and share it with another business owner who may need to hear it. And I'll see you on next week's show with more strategies to help you grow smarter and profit stronger. So until then, make your plans and profit with them. Thanks so much, Mark. This was great.
Thank you so much for sharing your audience with me.
Jerry, this is so good. And I know we can go on and on and on. And I have so many questions. And I lean into this because I think that, the one thing about YouTube that I really value is that it's there forever.
Mhm.
It goes up and it's there, and someone can find you months, years later, and it's still up there unless you take it down or you get, shut down. But I think the content is like LinkedIn. You put a post on LinkedIn, and if it's not I mean, it's gone in the feed within seconds. Sometimes I can't even find my own thing that I just posted, right? So if I can't find it, how is somebody else going to find my stuff? And that's why I'm thinking that this YouTube, and it's not new, but using YouTube as a real true partner in getting your visibility out there so people can find you is equally as strong of a tool as your website, if not even more.
Yeah.
And knowing that Google owns YouTube and Google is still, to this moment, the number one search engine out there. I mean, I know the AIs are coming in close, but even like you said, AIs are even recommending YouTube channels. So this is a platform you should strongly consider using. And with that being said, where can listeners find out more about you? How can they do this in less time and effort and see the success that you and your clients are seeing?
So if you're going to invest time in YouTube, the first thing I like to say is decide it's important or decide it's not. And if it's important, invest the time, maybe a little money, whatever you need for it to be successful. Because otherwise, it'll just drive you crazy. And the other thing I like to say is, commit to 6 months. But as overwhelmed entrepreneurs, business owners, it's really hard to do this. And that's why the whole YT90 system is about getting started so you can build it as a side hustle, because you're not going to see the benefits right away, but you can start seeing it compound over time. So I put together a resource. It's called the YT90 Roadmap, and it'll walk through the most important things to focus on, a little bit of what we talked about today, but more so that you aren't wasting time on the wrong things. And then it also has a little assessment you can do where you can really understand, is YouTube going to work for my business to be a lead generator, or is it going to be a total time suck? Because it's not for everybody. And so you can get that at YT90roadmap.com.
Love it. Ah, so good and so helpful. And there's so many different ideas. And I love how you started out saying, don't listen to everybody on YouTube because they might not be doing what's the right thing. And you've just given us the right tools to focus on. And I think that's the clarity that is missing by just randomly going out and trying to pull it off yourself. So listeners, go take Jerry up on his offer and get that assessment and that tool. All right. Thanks for tuning in today. I hope you're walking away with some practical ideas that you can put to work right now to grow a more profitable and valuable business. Gosh, I know I'm going to go, as soon as we get off this, I'm going to go try Jerry's assessment because YouTube, I mean, I even use it for this podcast and I know it's not giving me what I need. So I need the tweaks done. All right, before you go, if you want a clearer path to more revenue and stronger profit, go grab your free Profit Booster Growth Map. It quickly shows you how the top opportunities to grow revenue and stop the profit leaks that may be holding your business back. Go get it anytime at profitbooster.biz. And if this episode gave you value, please be sure to subscribe and share it with another business owner who may need to hear it. Well, I'll see you on next week's show with more strategies to help you grow smarter and profit stronger. So until then, make your plans and profit. Thank you so much, Jerry.
Yeah, thank you for having me.